So we're here with Kevin Hale of Wufoo. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this podcast with us.
I am happy to be here.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to jump right in with you. You're here at Converge SC, and you're talking about support-driven development. And I really want to know how that's changed your business, or did you start your business by thinking of that?
Well, one of the interesting things about it is, even though I mostly talk about it now, I was one of the last people to get on the train when we were first starting out the company. I was so the first year doing the company, it was just the three founders. It was Chris, Ryan, and myself. And Chris was the really, he focused a lot of sort of business aspects of stuff, and he was really big about customer support at that time. So he was answering every single email that came in when we're building out the product and building out the beta testing. And basically, at some point, he was like, "This is not fair." But he was really good about answering it as soon as people sent, and people were like really amazed and were like, "Oh, that's really exciting," and stuff, and generating the momentum and stuff. So this has to be split up and shared. And even then, I wasn't really a big fan.
Yeah, no one loves to do support. Right? It's the last thing you want.
I feel like I've changed a lot as a designer, and so one of the first things, at that point, I had a very strong personality, and as a lot of designers tend to, or artistic, creative types. Yeah. And so my feeling was like, things I made are like gifts from God, handed down, and if you get it wrong, it is your fault.
Yeah, it's your fault for not understanding it.
Exactly. Right. And it took a long time, after being forced to have to do my support sort of shifts, because out of fairness, I started to see I'm making mistakes that I could change, or there's things that I'm making assumptions about that I didn't realize, and it humbled me greatly. And after it was just the three of us for the first probably 2.5 years of doing the service. And at that point, you get this feeling, especially, when we were dividing up the times, where you do, your 8 or 12-hour shifts of support, where you get a good feeling on the pulse of the software, how well it's working, of your customer base, and you're completely aligned with them, trying to do what you can with them. Right. And it changed the way I sort of do design. It changed my perspective, how I think about things, and I don't always assume I know the answer, and I think that was a huge benefit and boon to us. So yeah, it started off with Chris, a business sort of person, which you wouldn't really sort of, and he also does program. He built the login system, and he programs even now. He built all the payment integration with it. But his big thing has always been you do the right thing by the people that are sort of paying your paychecks, right? And it's just common courtesy to do, and it's good business.
Absolutely.
And so he put that inside of me, and I've sort of taken it and all right, I believe in this wholeheartedly.
Right.
So
it's amazing.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's really important that you do it from the get-go, when you're first starting up that company, because it's hard to put that in later on. Once you have engineering teams who are not used to doing customer support,
they're never going to do it. Yeah.
Right, and you have marketing salespeople, even our accounting person, that's not something she would have done if,
Wow, so it just
every single person,
every person in your organization. That's incredible.
Every single person.
Well, along those lines, I've seen your talk, and I've seen you show, the Gmail interface, and you're using a labeling system and stuff, which I think is genius. But outside of that, how do you manage all the different streams of stuff that happens, Twitter, Facebook, and? Okay,
so the primary way we answer support is through email. And so there's the Wufoo contact forms on there, and then there's the support@wufoo.com. So we were very late into the Twitter arena, actually, and part of it was having to do with there was a domain squatter in Spain who had squatted our name, and they were like, "You have to pay us money." And so eventually we contacted Twitter and went through the whole rigmarole of handling that. So it took us a while to get on that. We now have dedicated support people. So people who take the major parts of the shift during the weekdays. Right. So Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. There's 2 people that handle majority of the support, and then developers take on from 8 p.m. to midnight in the weekend shifts. And so usually, and it's kind of split up what Twitter stuff. So the 2 support people, Jen and Andrew, they'll answer anything that's support related for Twitter, and then other general posting and interesting stuff that's done by other people. Right. But everyone has access to the Twitter account, and everyone has permission to sort of tweet to it if they need to. So, I mean, we basically trust the whole team to handle it. Right. Support, though, comes from everywhere. So people will try to call. People will try to email to different accounts and stuff. So we try to funnel everyone in appropriately to do that stuff. I don't know. I think as it gets bigger and bigger, we'll have to figure out like maybe having to man people
Sure.
at those things dedicated time. But at this point, it's been manageable
Right.
with sort of our system and processes.
You're just taking it as it comes. Right. It's probably smart. Well, I had a question to ask you about how you answer sport emails so fast, but I think you answered that. But in case you're wondering, they answer sport emails like within 5 minutes. It's freaky.
Right. So our average, it depends. So between the 7 to 12 minutes, if you're Monday
He's not
through
going to say
Friday.
5, but trust me,
Yeah.
they're fast.
We try to beat that time, but it averages. It depends. But yeah. So like Monday through Friday up to 5 p.m. You'll get it really quickly, and then from 5 p.m. to midnight you'll get it within an hour, and then on the weekends within 4 hours. And the way we do it is you have a dedicated person. Like
Right.
a person, if all they're supposed to do is like when an email comes in, you answer it. They can handle a large volume of stuff.
Right.
The other thing is we use tools and services. So we use a snippet tool called Text Expander. And
Okay.
so we have, most people's stuff are questions, and most questions
Right.
are the same ones over and over
Right,
again.
right.
Even though we have FAQs and all this stuff is answered
They
elsewhere.
still have to find it. Right.
Right. So we always we have like the most common billing questions. They're like shortcut keywords that people can use. Type like dot billing, and it puts in this
Okay.
like made email that says, and they add
Wow.
their sort of name and closing stuff to it, but it helps you get that stuff out really, really quickly.
Right. Well, I think the lesson there is that this
It's a
really
shared system. So
Right.
one of the things that's really cool about Text Expander is that you can put up like an XML file like on like S3 or something. So when it gets updated, it updates everyone's account.
Okay.
If you do it from a
Well, that's
URL.
cool.
You can also sync through Dropbox also.
Right.
So
right,
it's
right.
it's really
You're just using these tools anywhere to try to make it work. Mm-hmm. Right. Well, that's interesting, and I think the lesson there is that it's that support, just answering someone to like calm them down or deal with them or whatever, is a huge part of just good business.
yes.
As opposed to just support. It's a business part of.
I mean, we
making a
actually
business
feel like it's part of our marketing strategy.
Okay,
also,
that's interesting,
because like I always talk about that. So like every sport, because I feel like is an opportunity to make a fan out of someone,
Right,
and it's a
right,
way
right.
to like personalize your message and do your one-on-one sales call
Absolutely.
with them. And it's true, just like having sort of an intimate experience where I solve your problem, and you
Yeah.
have now a stronger relationship.
And you're
with me.
awesome, and now I'll buy more stuff.
And that's the long-term goal
Right.
of that. But I think we have so many people who recommend us to other people because it's like, oh,
Right.
and also,
Right.
if you ever
Yeah.
have a problem, you can always contact them, and they'll be right there.
That's huge.
Right, and that's a you can't beat that kind of recommendation,
No,
and it only
it's-
comes from people who have experienced it firsthand.
Right, and it's solid. Well, shifting gears a little bit, I wanted to ask you about the impact of HTML5 on your forms, because your designing your forms are kind of legendary. How are you kind of looking to the future to use some of that stuff or change it?
We are really excited about HTML5, and so the support isn't there completely, but we have
Right.
already started working on converting the markup and doing things appropriately. Because a lot of the features that we've implemented are things that are now going to be somewhat built into
Right.
HTML5. So we're excited about help use less of our resources and do things in smarter and less intensive ways programmatically on our end, and off shift it to the client side. That being said, there's a lot of sort of legacy browsers and stuff that we
Right.
have to still support. So we'll be okay, doing dual stuff. But our big goal is that we'll be, fully HTML5 compliant soon here in the future,
Wow.
and going to do stuff where if you want to even build like a simple HTML5 form, like we want to be one of the leaders in that space for
Right.
knowing everything
Right.
about it. So we've got all sorts of research, and we have all these really great ideas planned for the stuff that they're planning.
That's great.
Yep.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. Really
Awesome.
appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Gene.
Absolutely.
Awesome.